All right, let's get into it. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most dramatic stories from the Bible, from 2 Kings chapter 20. It's this incredible story about King Hezekiah. It's about life, death, a prayer that changes everything, and, as we'll see, the really complicated, unexpected fallout of getting a second chance. Can you just imagine that? You're a king, you're on top of the world, and then a prophet shows up and hits you with that line? I mean, talk about a gut punch. It is a blunt, no sugarcoating it death sentence. And this is exactly where our story kicks off, with these huge life or death stakes for King Hezekiah.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the king's death sentence, then the incredible divine reversal and the miracle that literally bent the laws of physics. And finally, we're going to get into the tricky part, the prophecy and Hezekiah's very complicated legacy.
So picture this. It's around 701 BC. King Hezekiah is fresh off a massive victory, having just defended Jerusalem against the terrifying Assyrian army. He should be celebrating, right? But then, right at the peak of his power, bam, he gets hit with a fatal illness. And all of a sudden, his military genius, his power, none of it matters when he's staring death in the face.
You know, this is such a powerful image. In his absolute darkest moment, the king doesn't call for his advisors, he doesn't summon the royal doctors, he literally turns his back on all of it, on the throne, the court, all the symbols of his power, for a private, one-on-one, desperate talk with God. It's just this moment of total vulnerability.
Now listen to his prayer. He's not just begging for mercy. He's basically making a case for himself. He's saying, look at my record. Remember how faithful I've been. And then the text says he wept bitterly. I mean, this wasn't some calm, stoic, kingly plea. This was the raw, heartbreaking cry of a man who was absolutely terrified of dying. And this is where the story just flips on a dime, and it happens fast. The prophet Isaiah, the same guy who just delivered the death sentence, hasn't even made it out of the palace courtyard before God tells him, turn around, I've got a new message.
And just look at how personal this answer is. It's not some generic heavenly decree. God specifically says, I have seen thy tears. It's like Hezekiah's raw, human emotion, his vulnerability, was actually a key part of the whole thing. The reversal is immediate and it's personal.
And the promise itself? It's so specific, it's wild. It's not just, hey, you're gonna get better. No, it's a number. 15 more years. And on top of that, God throws in a bonus, reaffirming his promise to protect the entire city from its enemies. So the king's personal survival gets tied directly to the nation's security. And I think this is so cool, the way the story mixes the normal and the miraculous. A poultice made of figs was actually a known medical treatment for boils back then. So God uses this totally ordinary, natural remedy as the channel for this extraordinary, supernatural healing.
Now, you would think a direct promise from God, delivered by a prophet, would be enough. But Hezekiah, in a moment that is just so human, so relatable, he needs a little more proof. He asks Isaiah for a sign, something to prove this incredible promise is for real. And his question, well, it kicks off what might be one of the most mind-bending miracles in the entire narrative. He's not asking for something small here. He wants a full-on cosmic demonstration of God's power. So Isaiah gives him a choice, and this is crucial. Should the shadow on the sundial jump forward 10 degrees, which is weird, for sure, but at least it's going in the right direction, or should it go backward 10 degrees, a total reversal of the laws of nature? And Hezekiah, he picks the impossible one. And it happens. The shadow on the royal sundial reverses course. It's like time itself bends, breaking its own rules, all as a personal confirmation for this one guy. This cosmic event proves God's promise by showing his absolute power over all of creation. So, Hezekiah gets his miracle. He gets his 15 extra years. But this is where the story takes a turn. This second chance, this gift of life, leads to a moment of weakness, a critical mistake that will have devastating consequences for his kingdom's future. So these envoys from Babylon, which is this up-and-coming empire, they show up to congratulate Hezekiah on his recovery. And in a moment of just pure pride, maybe wanting to show off how much God had blessed him, Hezekiah gives them the grand tour. He shows them everything, the gold, the silver, the weapons, the spices. He holds nothing back.
Well, Isaiah finds out and immediately confronts him, and the prophecy he delivers is just chilling. Hezekiah's boastful tour has basically just handed the Babylonians a shopping list. Isaiah says that the very nation he was trying to impress is going to come back one day and take every single thing he just showed them. And this timeline just lays it all out. Hezekiah's prideful mistake around 700 BC plants the seeds of a national disaster. And then, over a century later, in 586 BC, boom, the prophecy comes true with horrifying precision. Babylon does conquer Jerusalem and carries everything and everyone away.
So this brings up a really tough question, right? How are we supposed to look at this guy's legacy? He was a faithful king, he got a miraculous second chance, but his actions during that extra time directly set up his nation's destruction. It's complicated.
And Hezekiah's reaction to this horrifying prophecy is frankly kind of shocking. He doesn't argue, he doesn't pray for his descendants. He seems almost relieved that the disaster won't happen while he's alive. He's basically like, okay, as long as there's peace in my lifetime, we're good. It's a pretty short-sighted and selfish take, honestly.
And here it is, the final, tragic irony of the whole story. In those extra 15 years of life he was given, Hezekiah has a son, Manasseh. And this son, born as a direct result of the miracle, grows up to be one of the absolute worst kings in Judah's history. He spent his 55-year reign undoing every single good reform his father made, bringing idol worship back into the very temple Hezekiah had purified. This spiritual collapse is seen as the main reason the nation eventually fell.
And that's what we're left with. This incredibly complex and sobering question. Hezekiah's story is, on one hand, this powerful testament to faith and divine healing, but it's also a stark warning about pride, about unintended consequences, and about how one person's life can echo for generations. It really makes you think, doesn't it, that even the greatest blessings come with an immense weight of responsibility.